What is the worst version of you to have existed? Fresh out of high school me was stuck in a trauma cycle that I had no desire to get out of. As horrible as it was, I had no idea how to progress. Lasted a few years. I got a dog. I started bettering myself and my life got better too. Still have trauma, diagnosed CPTSD. It will never go away. But that's okay, because I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm trying. I am so much more than what happened to me. And I will always carry it, but I will not crumble under the weight of it anymore. Life isn't perfect and it won't be for a long time, but right now, I'm the best version of myself that I can be. When I left my abusive home, a lot of people seem to think it gets easier after. But trauma doesn't stay where it happened. It follows you. I had a couple bad habits, I will name them since I had kifits allowed here, but let's just say they were very unhealthy and it worried my loved ones dearly. They watched me destroy myself for a while. I felt bad but I couldn't stop. Weed helped a lot, but sadly after a bad experience with a different substance, any drug makes me panic. So now I'm just going with the flow. My habits are gone now. I'm doing better, I like to think. When I was in elementary, I was bullied during 3rd or 4th, to middle of 5th grade since the pandemic happened. I always thought myself as a victim only, hating them so much that I imagine a story where I kill and torture them for eternity. But as I remember again in high school, I realized that I joined them at some point, to bully a classmate who got away worse than me, so much so that he changed school. I don't know if it was the primary cause, but it's certainly a contributor. He served as a reminder that I was a jerk, not just the victim. Me between the ages 1-7. I was a rabid violent kid with no self-control, no capability of empathy, and basically no brain. I became me at the age of 7, when I became a vegetarian out of my own volition, and started to develop an heavy conscience, started thinking about the world and life, and basically, became more human than the wild beast I used to be. While I have had various odd changes in my life, I'm pretty much on the same trajectory as I was when I turned 7. And whatever happens, I take the previous version of me as evil. This current one, I kinda don't give a shit about a lot of things, but I do kinda give a shit about a lot of things. I don't want to do anything, but I don't want to just be in my apartment. Cleaning up this dump could help, but I'd rather rub one out and take another nap on a Saturday. I've pissed some people off that are definitely gunning for me, so that's gonna suck real soon. I'd rather be dead than have to wake up to my fucking alarm Monday morning. Nothing's making sense anymore and I'm just ready to leave. Dig? 13-14-year-old me. I was terrible. I ran with a really bad crowd. I did a lot of fighting. I snuck out at night. Even participated in the theft and joyride of an SUV. I'm certain if Snapchat or Instagram existed at the time I would have done something to ruin my life. Anyway, my dad went to prison my freshman year, and it was a giant wake-up call. Ended up trying to turn shit around. Migrated to a different group of friends. Started thinking about making the most of high school. I suppose I turned out okay. When I was taking psychiatric medicine for a misdiagnosis, learned of the actual diagnosis many years later. The wrong medication made me extremely angry, always hungry, sleeping way too much or not sleeping at all. I was a zombie and stupid. Self-harmed nearly every day. The medication made me worse. Couldn't work, couldn't remember anything, and had zero motivation. Lost relationships in my entire 20s. The entire time, they weren't treating the correct issues. I was really angry about it for a couple years. Every time I look back at myself a few years ago, no matter how old I get, I cringe. I guess it's a good thing because it means I'm constantly growing. But by far my worst was 10 years ago in my mid-20s. I was in a new place with no support system, severe depression and being gaslit at every turn by a manipulative person I thought I was close to. Looking back, I can't correlate my actions with who I am as a person. It's like I have the memories of a completely different person who looked identical to me, college me. Or, me from 2009, 2012? I was so self-centered, thought I was always right, wanted to be spoiled rotten by friends. If I was close friends with someone, I didn't want them to talk to anyone but me. It was bad. I wouldn't have wanted to be my friends with that attitude, lol. I had graduated high school a year earlier and it was very clear that I had a lot of growing up to do. I like to think I'm better now, especially since I've learned so much since then on how to be a better person. Smiley face. Glass house. White Ferrari. Live for New Year's Eve. Sloppy steaks at Terfoni's. Big rare cut of meat with water dumped all over it, water splashing around the table, makes the night so much more fun. After the club go to Trifoni's for sloppy steaks. They'd say no sloppy steaks, but they can't stop you from ordering a steak and a glass of water. Before you knew it, we were dumping that water on those steaks. The waiters were coming to try and snatch them up. We had to eat as fast as we could. When I was 16, I lost my uncle, one of my best friends, and my dog in a short few months. Lost all motivation, quit the basketball team, put on weight, etc. Basically, I just became a shell of my former self. It took me way too long to find myself again, and I don't wish that state of mind on anybody. Some people get it worse and never find themselves again. I also don't like the me I am ATM, but I'm at least sane enough to acknowledge and work towards bettering myself. 23-year-old me in 2018. I was at my rock bottom emotionally, to the point where everything irritated me, so I'd be so toxic all because my life situation was terrible. I guess I thought that was an excuse to be a dickhead. Sleeping on the floor of a friend's house he shared with his mom, no money, no job for almost a year. Felt useless, thought about harming myself. It was really bad. Never want to go back to that feeling again. I'm still healing from that experience at 28. I would say my sophomore self was the worst version of me. I dated a senior, and that relationship ended up backfiring. Ended up losing any chance of playing sports that year because we were caught in my bedroom. Ended up falling for my best friend, and that didn't work because she didn't like me. We still were friends after. I'd say I had 2, maybe 3 friends that year. Although, the next year would have plenty of surprises. Everything happens for a reason, right? Anything between about 17-26. Nothing outrageous, I was just a little shit who didn't take responsibility and did selfish things for a cheap thrill. My parents split and I didn't realize how angry I was at them, so acted like a brat instead. I didn't appreciate the things I was provided and didn't want to work to earn my own way. In the end I moved countries, which forced me to sort my shit out and grow up. Employed and own a house now with my BF of 6.5 years. Me 3 months ago after a prolonged period of insomnia. Took a medication for it, which caused a psychotic reaction that had me ruin a close friendship, and almost brought me to death. Originally misdiagnosed at the hospital, trauma from that brought me to try to share the situation with people I thought were friends, only to be berated, ghosted. Now received a proper treatment, and things are better, but the relations that were ruined cannot be mended. Before I found a job abroad, I was on a downward spiral. I had let go of an okay job because the boss was a B, and I was making wrong decision after wrong decision. I also had a 3-year LDR that abruptly ended. I hated the city I lived in. I hated myself. I didn't want to see friends. I stopped going to church. Moving to another country helped me start afresh, not without its own challenges, but at least I am not who I was in 2011, the height of my pill addiction. While house sitting, I knew the owner had medical issues, which meant they would have pills. Being the addict I was, I found them fairly quickly. I'm sure I should have died that weekend. Ativan's 5 mg, and I think I popped 5. I don't remember much of anything for those 4 days. It's very scary, very embarrassing. After I sobered up, I owned it and apologized. We're still friends. I'm sober 6 years now. My borderline disorder and bipolar 2 that developed from childhood abuse trauma. I can't be in serious relationships. I go into a rabbit hole and relationships consume me. I have been single for 4 years. Yes, I have not had sex since 4 years ago, and when I set up a meet from dating apps I'm very detached and then I just cancel it. LOL. I can't be in a relationship with another person. I guess I'll be single until I die. LOL. I have parts that were the worst part about me at every age, but it's always balanced by something I can think of that is good, or something important I learned from it. There's a whole lot right now that is absolutely my worst version of me, but it made me frustrated enough to make some changes that will ultimately be amusing, so I can't really fault that much. Dang. I truly thought I would be able to answer this one easily right now. We just lost our house in a landslide. Me and my husband and 3 grandkids were all in it. Thank God my son was at work because his room was completely flattened. We lost everything, even our car. Thank God we're alive. It's been hard since then, like we're living in a nightmare. I've started drinking, which I never did before, and crying a lot. I really thought we were all going to die. Thank God we didn't. The night before Election Day, 2016. Strung out on heroin and painkillers and 600 miles from home for a new job prospect. Got busted trying to smuggle clean piss in for my drug test, and they put me out on the street, rightfully so. No money for food, no money for a bus ticket, dopesick as ever. The absolute lowest moment of my entire life. If I ever thought about taking the easy way out, it was during that night. I had COVID for an entire month exactly 3 years ago. I live alone, so was isolated. I was so lonely. People would visit me at my window closed, and I remember seeing their stunned faces at how awful I looked. Laying on the living room carpet, drunk, yes I know, crying, my hair was falling out, my head hurt all the time from hacking. Then encephalopathy, and I did wild stuff in the middle of the night. Wild. I was a terrible drunk. Approaching 6 years sober on September 4th, 2023. How a 5 feet 5 inches lady could drink 5 handles of gut-rot vodka in a week at her bottom. I'm still amazed I pulled myself out. I was killing myself. September 4th, 2017, I quit. Never looked back. I try help others suffering now. Frustrating to know how wonderful recovery is, you want to share it but many just aren't ready. I get it, victory hand, sparkling heart, oh dot. When I still held some questionable opinions on LGBTQ people back in middle school, early high school. I ended up dating someone in high school who talked me out of that shit, and even though we're no longer together, I'll always be grateful to her for that. I mean, fuck it. I'm gonna admit to something I hate to say. I unironically watched Pragaroo videos. Ugh. I'm glad I'm not that version of me anymore.